Hello and welcome to the Live Thrivingly podcast. Today's guest I met at an Airbnb experience yoga class called Yoga Under the Palms on Waikiki Beach in Honolulu, Hawaii. She has a BA in dance from the University of Oregon in 2011 and a 200-hour YTT from Core Power also in 2011. She was actually some of the inspiration that went behind the creation of my logo with the banyan tree for Live Thrivingly, as there was a giant banyan tree literally right where we were practicing. So without further ado, I welcome Emily Baumann to the podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so to start off, I just want to ask, do you have a spirit animal and why this is your spirit animal?
Oh yeah, I would say I have a few. But I would say cat for sure. Um, I am a Leo, so it's like the symbol of the lion. And I definitely have that kind of sleepy, lay in the sun, super chill, cuddly until I'm not, and then I pounce on what I want, and kind of have that sort of like extremes kind of energy, either really relaxed or really on. So I would say, yeah, I like being up high, I like climbing on things. So yeah, I very much feel connected to cats.
I love that.
And I think my cat will probably make an appearance at some point.
Awesome. What type of cat?
She is a medium short hair tuxedo cat, so black and white. She's just 2.5, so sometimes when I'm on these Zoom meetings, she'll be like, play with me. So yeah, we may have, she may start attacking me. We'll see.
Did you bring this cat with you when you moved to Hawaii, or did you get the cat while you were down there?
So I adopted her in Portland prior to moving in 20. I always get my dates messed up. 2020, yeah. So like kind of when we were deeply in lockdown of COVID, and so that's when I adopted her, and then did not bring her right away when I moved to Hawaii, but I brought her. I had an angel for a neighbor who took care of her while I was able to get everything set up so that I could bring her. Hawaii has really strict rules with bringing pets because it's a rabies-free state, and so but it actually worked out well because then I was able to be settled and then bring her into that environment that was kind of a bit more grounded, and so it wasn't so chaotic. So, but yeah, she is here with me now.
Awesome. That's great. So yeah, to start, I would love to hear some more of your backstory. I know you shared with me some through the introduction, but yeah, so what led you down the path you walk today?
Yeah, such a big question, right? And then I was kind of thinking too about now I was looking at your different episodes and haven't gotten to listen to too many yet, but um, I did listen to the trailer, and looking at the titles of each of the episodes made me think like, oh, like if I had to kind of title my story, I think that would be really hard.
Mhm.
And I kind of like that. I kind of like that everyone's story is so layered, and kind of we go on these tangents and then we get back on track and in and out of alignment, and just yeah, so it's just kind of side note there, um but yeah, my mom was uh, in tune enough with me as a child and saw that I just always was moving and needed to be kind of physically engaged with what I was doing, and she put me in dance kind of right away as a really young kid. Like I think we even did mommy and me ballet at 2, um, and then just always was involved with movement of some kind. And then yeah, then when I was in college, I didn't really want to go to college because I wanted to pursue dance, and I just thought college almost seems like a delay in my mind, which it definitely wasn't in hindsight, of course. But a lot of dancers will just go and move to a city that has a really good dance scene and kind of just like make connections and start going to auditions and stuff there. So it's kind of what I wanted to do, but then family kind of pressure, societal pressure of like, oh well, if you get a degree, it's a lot easier in life. And I sort of thought, it's probably true. So I went to University of Oregon, and but while I was there, I was like, I'm a freshman, and I was trying to decide what route to take, and I was talking to one of my best friends, like, what should I do? Like, I don't know, and she was just like, just study dance, like that's what you love, like why not, and University of Oregon is not known for their dance program, but it is a hidden gem, a diamond in the rough. It is a very small, kind of tight knit program, and there there's endless characters that are the professors of that program who really help shape kind of my connection to movement at large. And so I'm really grateful for my friend for just saying, this is what you love, like why not study it? No, it's not really a degree that people think of as something that lands you a job right out of college, but it was what I was into. So yeah, and so then after college was kind of worried in that same regard of like, okay, well, dance degree, what do I do with this? I didn't at the time, I didn't think I wanted to teach dance, and I wanted to perform. I wanted to travel with a company, really wanted to travel, and kind of was tunnel vision about like I need to do this dance career, and so then I was doing yoga kind of on the side, like during winter breaks, and I would be home in Portland. I would go to Core Power and just to kind of try to stay in shape. And then it just became so much deeper. I'd find myself crying in the classes, and the experience that I think a lot of people have where you go in for idea of fitness, physical wellness, and then very quickly realize it's so much more. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm having therapy sessions when I go to these classes and this and that. And so one of the yoga instructors asked me if I wanted to do teacher training. And at first I was like, oh, I don't want to delay any longer. I need to get this dance career going. And then I just thought, hey, this might be a really good way to ground and to find center, even if I don't teach, but I could do that on the side kind of thing. And so yeah, so I did the teacher training, and then still during the training, I had this kind of preconceived notion that, oh, it's still just gonna be like a side thing, and didn't really dive deep within kind of the personal work that a lot of people I think do when they do a teacher training. I kind of was just like, okay, like I'm a dancer, so I thought like, oh, I know what this movement thing is about, and I didn't, because yoga is so much deeper. Um, but anyway, it still kind of was like a side thing. And then moved to San Francisco after teacher training pretty quickly after. Had some friends from U of O that had moved there and were doing kind of freelance work in the dance scene, modern dance, to be specific. And that was a really cool experience doing projects there and really being with like a lot of the kind of grassroots, like underground kind of dancers and choreographers there. And then let's see, was it in, yeah, it was in San Francisco that I just kind of realized I was just like, wow, I'm so lit up. I just feel illuminated when I teach. And then when I go to these dance classes or I'm in rehearsal for these different projects that I'm in, I just feel like dead weight. Like I just feel like so uh and I felt kind of desperate to like get into these different companies or shows, and I just felt like it had lost the magic, and kind of, and then it was just like, but that's the opposite of why we dance. We dance to feel connected to our deeper selves. We dance to feel connected to our roots, because dance is how many of the original communities all over the world unified, and all this. And so I just sort of thought, let me take a break from dance and let me just focus on yoga. And that's when I really kind of dove in and started teaching full time. in San Francisco and Berkeley, kind of both sides of the Bay Area, and was really just loving it. And then my I don't know how detailed or how far into this we want to go, but I don't know. Did you have any like questions or anything so far, like comments? Yeah.
No, yeah. Thanks for just diving in and really giving us the breakdown. I love this. This is how I want it to go. So yeah,
Cool.
if you want to keep following that trail,
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I just feel like I'm just kind of carrying on, but yeah. And by the way, thank you for this opportunity to kind of share my story. Every time I think we share our stories, there are different insights that come through, and then it may guide us forward. So thank you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so then boyfriend at the time, he wanted to move to LA to pursue the entertainment business, and I was, things were rocky with that relationship, but I was very invested and sort of thought, okay, well, even if things fail within that relationship, in the back of my mind, I thought, well, Los Angeles is a thriving dance scene, and I probably wouldn't move there if it weren't for him. So I went ahead and moved with him, and actually got back into dance there a little bit. Worked with one particular choreographer that had us doing. She had a background in like showbiz as well and singing. Forget the show that she was on, but so we kind of did some fun like dance theater stuff, and it was really powerful in the sense of like, okay, it's movement, but then it adds voice, and there was a certain voice that would come through when I would teach yoga. But there's an expectation for it to be kind of like this, this calming tone and this, and we all joke as teachers, like our yoga teacher voice. And it's like, we try to be genuine and authentic, but then there is kind of like that preconceived notion in our minds that, oh, we need to make sure that we sound relaxing, right? So it's kind of funny when you start to pick up on it, like, oh, now she's in teacher voice, like yoga voice. But anyway, so there was kind of this like, and I guess going back to like that whole spirit animal thing that you had asked, which I love that you asked that. But like this inner roar that really wasn't able to come out and felt kind of like trapped. And then in this dance project, it was just so liberating. I actually had like a sing off with this other woman that was in the piece, and it was, it was so fun and beautiful. And it was cool that, this relationship then ultimately ended, but it was like I had come back to dance in such a roundabout way, and then it was a totally new type of dance that I may not have connected with if I didn't, follow that path. And that's like a lot of, when I look back, a lot of the turns, twists and turns, plot twists and this and that it's just like, if you just follow the instinct and follow what feels right, you will end up where you're meant to be. And I think it's so hard to see in the moment, and you can't avoid the anxiety that comes with feeling like, oh, is this the right choice, or this and that, but really just trusting that intuition always will lead you where you're meant to be. So, which I'm sure you can speak to with creating this whole podcast. It's so awesome that you're creating this. But yeah, so then I was in LA for 2 years. Let's see, no, one year with that guy, then that relationship ended, but then really started teaching a lot more, and actually listened to a podcast and heard this guy interviewed who was talking about Buddhism. And I've always been a seeker, and yoga of course has its own spirituality that is rooted in Buddhism and Hinduism, different Eastern philosophies, but still didn't really have like too deep of a spiritual practice that was not physical. I would always find that peace of mind, but it was like, oh, but I can't really find that without the physical. And so I always kind of knew that I really wanted to find that. And So then when I heard this guy talking about this particular kind of Buddhism, Nichiren Buddhism, um, I was just like, I was making dinner while I was listening to the podcast, and I just like turned off the burner, went to my room, and just like sat there and just was just enamored by this guy's energy, and was like, wow, like I need to learn from this person. And I'm just thinking like, oh, like I'll have to just find more podcasts or find out where else I can learn from him. And then at the end of the podcast, the guy interviewing says, okay, so where can we find you? And he happened to be also a yoga teacher. He says, oh, we can find me in Santa Monica, every day at 8 a.m. I teach every 5 days a week. And I'm just thinking, okay, I can ride my bike to learn from this guy 5 days a week. I'm like, this is so cool. This is so meant to be. And so really was excited about that. And then, yeah, definitely had like a very intense and interesting experience learning from him. But yeah, learned Buddhism from him, learned to chant. Nichiren Buddhism, if you're not familiar, was founded by Nichiren Daishonin, who was a 13th century Buddhist reformist. And he basically found that in studying the Lotus Sutra, which is a sacred text, and his own practices, that if you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which I can break down if you're curious about what that means, but if you chant that, then you will be able to transform your own suffering. And he believed that anyone could transform their own suffering, and there was nothing that was outside of oneself. And it was just to connect to that faith within. So I just love that, because I always was sort of turned off by this idea of like the God character in the sky, but I always thought, okay, but there is a magic to life, and there are these sort of subtler energies that are at play that I'm always tuning into, but I can't really define them. And so this really allowed me to access that connection to spirituality that was in a way that wasn't physical. And that was something I was really seeking, because I didn't want to rely on the physical, and I knew that it was limited in certain ways. And so, yeah, so then through chanting, was able to really realize, okay, so at the time in Portland, where I'm from, my dad was sick. He had Alzheimer's. And in a lot of ways, I was kind of in denial, which I think is very common for loved ones with degenerative diseases, is making excuses like, oh, dad's always been spacey, like, oh, like with age, people just get more forgetful and this and that. And then through chanting, I really realized like, no, this is really happening, and I need to accept it, and I need to figure out what I need to do to kind of come to terms with it. And when I would talk to my mom, she was his primary caretaker. She's one to be very stoic. And so when she would kind of say these little things here and there, I could tell that she was really struggling to manage, the emotion and just the exhaustion of taking care of someone that really he was really going downhill. At the time, he had it for about 5 years, and this was in 2017. And he ended up having it for another 5 years. But so then through chanting, I really realized, I was like, okay, I know I need to be in Portland and be with my family and really have these last moments with my dad that I can have. I don't want to have regrets, but why am I not going there? I really felt like I needed to move back, and I felt like it was giving up. And I'm just like chanting, and I'm just bawling, just like, I don't want to give up. And then something clicked, like it was like a veil was cleared, and I was able to see that it wasn't giving up at all. Like moving home would be following my heart. And that was just such a big breakthrough moment. And very quickly, like within, I think, a month, I sold a bunch of stuff, took a bunch of stuff to Goodwill, like just made it happen to move back. And it was really beautiful, going back and having these moments with my dad and really being able to put my faith and my Buddhist practice and my yoga practice and teaching into action, to where my dad, my family, they really needed me, and needed these practices themselves, but I was the one doing them. So I would just with my dad. For those not familiar, Om is the universal vibration, and my dad is always very musically inclined, and he also was into yoga at one point. So uh, definitely a kindred spirit. Like, he and I were very synced up in kind of a subtle energetic level, or way. And so yeah, so and then another thing that I know I had mentioned when I shared kind of my story with you, Jackson, was just that, no longer doing dance, or pursuing a dance career. It's so cool how that, sorry, my twinkle lights just kind of took a dive. But it's so cool how that, the pursuit of dance really gave me these skills that are applicable in these really challenging life circumstances. For instance, creativity, and the way that I was able to riff off something my dad said that someone else might be like, that doesn't make sense. And then he would feel more distant and sad. And the person, that's trying to understand is fixating on that doesn't make sense, and creating more disconnect, to where I was able to create more connection when he would say, oh, he did this. And you're like, who? And he doesn't know, or he says a random name, and you just say, oh, what else did he do? Or just these ways that you can kind of go with the flow in that moment. It's very yogic as well. Um, and so I just was so happy to see that, okay, I built these skills for this really hard circumstance, and I didn't know that it was for this, but again, I just followed that intuition to cultivate these practices, and now I can use them to help myself through this hard process, and then my family as well. And so that was really amazing, and beautiful. And so I would just say, like, for those that, aren't sure what path to take, or they think, oh, what is this, especially the creative types, artistic types, it's like, oh, where's this really going to lead me? And it's like, life is art, and creativity is presence, and allows our Buddha nature to really come through in those moments when it's needed. And so I hope that y'all can really take that in, and and let it propel you in those directions you feel drawn, because it's like so much deeper and bigger than you'll ever know. So yeah, so then dad eventually passed away in January 8th, 2020. He passed away peacefully. We had all the family, there, and we had music playing. And I think at that point we were devastated, obviously, but I think that a 10-year process of degeneration, we had time to say bye. We had no regrets. I moved back. Like, this gave me no regrets. I had these moments with him. And there were definitely like a lot of him was still there when I had first moved back. So I was so happy that I found Buddhism when I did, and was then able to really break through those limiting beliefs of like, okay, I need to go be there. And so, yeah, so then the pandemic hits pretty much right after. A few months, I guess it was March of 2020. And thankfully we were able to have a big celebration of life, right, like a few weeks prior. And that timing was just so mystic, in the sense of, if we had planned it for any later, no one would have been able to come. We wouldn't have been able to have that space of grieving together, and really celebration of this amazing human that was my dad. And his favorite thing was to dance and laugh and have a good time. And so the fact that we were able to create that environment that he would have loved, was really rewarding and beautiful. But I think in a lot of ways, like, because the pandemic hit when it did, it's kind of like, now I'm finding that a lot of the grieving is happening because it's like almost put on hold. because of the pandemic. Because we were all in survival mode. We're just like, okay, this is changing. What's new today? This and that. So, but yeah, and so taught on IG Live, even did some chanting on IG Live, which was really cool to, just use that platform, which I'm pretty active on, just to be able to stay connected and really keep doing what I love, again, in a time when it was really needed. Like, people felt isolated, people were living in fear and not sure what the next day would bring. And so I felt really empowered through that, but I also really missed that in-person interaction, and just, there's no substitute for the exchange of energy that you feel when you're in a class, which I'm sure you can speak to, Jackson. It's just like that. It's just the buzz, right? It's the the sound, the universal vibration that you feel in person. So, but yeah, a lot of time to reflect when things came to a halt, and I through those winters in the pandemic, stuck at home, like in Portland, it got really depressing. And while I was definitely lit up by teaching these classes, I was also like having pretty low moments, and then, so really had some time to think through, like, okay, what do I need to shift or change? And it's cool because I think a lot of people during the pandemic did find kind of these underlying desires for how they wanted to be living or how we wanted to move forward, because we had that pause. And while it was chaotic, it definitely provided that stillness that we all needed. And so that led me to want to be in Hawaii. I had been here, I think 4 times, 5 times maybe throughout my life. My uncle lives here. He's been here 22 years. And so I went in high school. I went as a kid, I think I was 10, and then I went in high school when I was like 16. And again, I came when I was 23 or so. And then I came this last January. And I came to visit, but pretty much knowing that I would want to be here, but just thought, let me just see what it's like with all this life experience and just make sure that it would be fitting. And just, I love the ocean, the sun. It's like, you've been here, Jackson. Like, it's so conducive to yoga and to just living kind of that mindful life of things being a little bit slower. And yeah, like I always like to say, like, let the water hold you. Like, I feel like this water, the ocean here, is just, it's so therapeutic in a deep way. So yeah, so after that trip, just really started taking action, and end of March ended up moving here. And so yeah, and then just kind of like things really fell into place. Like, I reached out to a lot of people before I came, and as far as yoga studios and this and that, I work at a vegan cafe as well. And now I'm kind of finding myself like I need to pull back. Like, I got really excited, and it's very normal to, be in a new place and want to take the opportunities. But now it's like, okay, I'm out of balance. I'm burnt out. So going to be letting go of the cafe job, just because it's, while I am vegan and I am passionate about people, being as plant-based as they can be, as works for their bodies. But I know I can do that while not working at that cafe, and just have more energy to kind of be more in alignment with, kind of more, I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I'm opening myself up to kind of a different side gig that would be something where I could rest my body and not be on my feet for 8 hours. But I'm really grateful for just all the, like I said before, all the twists and turns and plot twists of life for leading me to here. And just all the people I've met here and all the opportunities I've been given. And also, like, like, you're one, like, the fact that I got to share my story and connect with you is just, it really is so profound. So
yeah,
that's
I
where
gotta say, wow, amazing Amazing. So much good stuff there, so much wisdom. Thank you so much for being open and vulnerable and showing up as your authentic self and just pouring out to us in the audience. And I mean,
Yeah, thank you for holding that space.
yeah, I mean, some takeaways I have. I mean, there is a lot, but you definitely mentioned quite a few times about just like chasing your passion and following your heart, and then also kind of talking about how when you began to kind of explore these different practices and accumulate, the chanting and the Buddhism and uh, yoga and dance, and how you didn't necessarily know exactly what that was going to really bring you in the moment, like, but in the long run you've seen how it's like it gives you the tools and the skills to navigate life, and especially when we're brought like a trial, like your dad's situation and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think sometimes in the moment when we are just thinking about the day-to-day practice or building a new skill and this and that, we don't see how it really infuses the rest of our life moving forward.
that's such a good word. Yeah, I love how you said that, infuses. And it is like, yeah, it's like this whole amalgamation of like all of our experiences, all of our passions, and even the things that feel mundane or like ordinary, they actually are infused with that energy of, spirit, or of, um, you know, courage and love and dedication, just all of those things that we all strive for. So yes, I really like how you said that, infused.
And your just trust of the process is so commendable. Just understanding like, hey, like, you didn't necessarily know where you've been, like where it was going, but you just trusted, and you knew that the universe was guiding you to these different things, and it's always opened up in a new way. I mean, that's crazy that that guy you listened to in that podcast was just literally right down the road where you could ride your bike to. That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. And it's, yeah, no, and thank you for seeing me in that way, in that depth. But yeah, it's so interesting how, in Buddhism we say nothing's random. It's like everything really does have meaning and purpose. And when we get tired and we're going through the motions, we gotta get up, get to work, then these seemingly mundane things, it's like if we can just keep that perspective, or keep staying open to how the universe is communicating with us, um, I think that really helps, with to remind ourselves. And so a few reminders that I have that I'll offer to people, is one thing, like I do tend to have a bit of road rage. I don't drive currently here. I take the bus. But um, when I was driving, I would follow. So I don't know if you've heard of like angel numbers, or there's a whole philosophy with numerology that I'm actually not too familiar with, but angel numbers are like repeated numbers, and today is 1111, so that's kind of fun. um, but so I always look at license plates, or like anything, there's numbers all over, and there's so many ways that you can find meaning in these mundane activities, right? And so that's one way that I kind of find it. um, you can look up, just if you Google like, oh, the meaning of, repeated ones or repeated twos, or this and that. And I'll just kind of I kind of do this with everything, but I'll kind of take one word or one kind of phrase that I connect with, and then I just like mesh that with kind of how it relates in my life. I do that with, tarot cards, with different quotes or books, and it's all how it connects with what we're going through, or what in that moment. And so I think people get really caught up in like, well, what does one mean? And it's like,
Mhm.
well, what does it mean to you today or in this moment, and but I think that, yeah, that it's good to remember that there are these different ways that the universe communicates with us, the universe, God, whatever, however you connect with spirituality. But so that kind of gets me through those times where I am doubting, and I am human, I'm not always trusting, and I get frustrated with being burnt out. But it's like, then I just take a moment and I'm like, okay, what do I see right now? Like, how does this create meaning in this moment? And I think as long as things mean something, then as humans, we can exhale, because we're not like just going through the motions. Like everything has meaning, you know.
Yeah, I love that. And on one hand, it's like I just feel like, you know, you have done so much self-work and exploration, that you have that such a like strong tie to the intuition, and that you can see all these things as being something that's, you know, the numerology, the angel numbers, and also, like you said, books, quotes. I mean, there's constantly all these messages, but you know, when you really get to know yourself deeper, which however you come to that, there's so many practices to help, you know, with the self discovery process. But then yeah, it's just, you can just continue to find these clues to lead you along your life's path, and continue to shed layers and you know, step into your higher self.
Yeah, thank you. I think I don't feel like I have a choice, you know. Like it's either like following my intuition, or I will I'll make myself sick. Like for me it's very black and white like that. Like if I don't listen to that inner voice, and I think that's for most people, just I think people are just maybe a little more closed off to their inner voice, because society and culture kind of wants us
Mhm.
to be guided by external, you know, commodification of everything is pushes against that. And but I just think that like you say, like you know, the way towards a holistic lifestyle really is listening to that inner compass. If we want to be healthy, we can't just treat like the surface symptoms. So I really liked, yeah, like in your trailer, and friends, if you're on here listening, please listen to the trailer. Jackson has some good nuggets in there. So, but yeah.
Thank you. I know that we're kind of getting close on time, but I would like to ask, you know, when you hear the words live thrivingly, what comes to your mind?
Uh, yeah, like to feel alive, to feel in flow, to be present enough to riff off the moment and kind of take whatever curveball comes and just like pass it to the next homie, you know. um, to really listen inward and remember that our toolbox is so bottomless, that we have so many tools and um, techniques and methods that we can access, especially this day and age. You know, 5 minutes and of stretching or of breathing or of meditating or drawing or whatever it is, dancing, listening to a song, and we can be in a totally different headspace. Our nervous system, I think, can be regulated in like a minute. I think it only takes a minute to really regulate your nervous system, or even I think some people can do it in a few seconds. I don't know the science behind it, but yeah, I think that that kind of leads me to that next piece of like to live thrivingly is to like know what helps you regulate your nervous system, know what helps you to come down and be grounded and listen to the moment.
I love that. Yeah. And thank you for sharing your perspective on live thrivingly. And I was talking with one of my yoga instructors recently, and she said that her therapist originally told her he was like, "Hey, Rita, like you need to learn to self-soothe." And that's really right up the alley of, you know, finding those methodologies for you that help you self-soothe. And it's honestly funny that if you look back to your childhood, you have clues to what, you know, helped you then. You know, if you've grown away from those, you know, reintroduce those. Those are wonderful practices to bring back in.
No, I love that. Yeah, I think it's really cool how many people are connecting with their inner child these days. It's kind of become like almost trendy, but it's like great because that inner child, it's totally true. Like you're spot on to where that is still very much alive in us, like our inner child, and a lot of those that unfinished business from childhood, like we can still work out in the moment. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be like, for some people they need to go back and talk through every event, and other people need to dance it out. Or for me it's like I realized something I loved as a kid was climbing trees, and as you know, and as you mentioned about the banyan trees are kind of hard to climb, but some trees here you can climb, and there's a lot, and it's just like recently I've been doing that a little bit more and realizing like, oh wow, like this is so soothing. My inner cat is like, now I can see everything up here. So, but yeah, I really like how you brought that in, the inner child stuff.
That's awesome. I love that you mentioned like climbing trees and stuff, and just like I love like going outside with my shoes off, climbing a tree, just grounding, like kind of getting back to that rewilding aspect of let's come back to nature and stuff and get connected, because it seems to draw us inward more than our, traditional society.
Yeah. Wait, did you say rewilding?
Yeah, it's a term I
I
came
like
across
that.
recently. It's called rewilding, and it's the
That's
whole
perfect.
modern movement of getting back to our roots, and really kind of shedding these societal layers that may have disconnected us from nature. And it's a beautiful practice, and there's so many ways to do it.
I love that. Yeah, rewilding. That's awesome. I feel like that with you and I going back and forth, that there's like this aspect of like playfulness, and it's so beautiful and synchronized with talking about inner child, and just like for a lot of us, like we don't, as adults, we don't have this aspect of play integrated into our lives or our days. And one thing that I do when I'm at my best is I have like these different characters. You know how kids will like act out characters, and
Mhm.
there were times when my dad was like, "Oh, did you have a bunch of friends over?" I'm like, no, just working stuff out. And I would talk to all these like imaginary friends, and it's funny because it's like it's still something that really serves me. Like it's not necessarily like imaginary friends, but it's like I'll just go into these different characters when I'm just at home and by myself, and I will just like self entertain. And that's something I did a lot as a kid, and it's so cool how that is still just coming through. And I think, but however you do, just to keep that aspect of play, I think, and humor, and just like don't take yourself too seriously. Some of these practices can just get so serious that it's like, is that really helping you thrive?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, it's the playfulness, the humor, all of it. I mean, I have to remind myself constantly to come back to it, because, like you said, kind of in adulthood, it's like it's not really there anymore. It's we're made to be in these rigid boxes, and we have to be this way and that way. And it's like, no, it's like get back to that playfulness, that humor, dance it out, just like have an imaginary friend, or talk in different voices. Like my older sister, I think we all tell her she has like 8 or 9 different voices, like depending on her mood, like she'll have like a different like inflection, and it's always fun to see. And it's like, but
That's awesome.
it's like I remember that now that I think about it, looking back on our childhood, I was like, I remember like all these different voices my sister had, and she still has them. Like if she's excited,
Yeah,
she's down, or like
that's awesome. I have to ask, is she a Gemini? Do you know?
I don't
When's her
know, but
birthday?
she is actually December, like a December birthday, like right around.
Okay, so she probably is Sagittarius. That's
Yes,
so funny. Yeah. So what are you? When's your birthday?
I'm a Virgo.
Okay, I was like, guaranteed he's an Earth sign. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Live
that's
thrivingly,
awesome.
banyan tree. Like it kind of all came full circle with the Virgo stuff when I was like, yeah, I'm definitely an Earth sign. I've always been
Yeah,
back to the soil in preschool.
rewilding.
Yeah, I was on the playground catching lizards, showing the teachers and stuff, and they're like, "What are you doing? This is a crazy kid.
Yeah.
Get me to the dirt, get me to the soil. I want to be out in nature."
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And that's again like just another way to find meaning. I would say I didn't mention astrology, but I really do a lot of reading on astrology. I don't know too much, but I know enough about each sign to kind of help. It helps me understand people and dynamics and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, I
cool.
love
Thanks for
that.
sharing that.
And I think that
Yeah.
one thing I just want to leave the audience with from this,
Yeah.
we kind of hit on it in different parts of the conversation too, is just that, you know, when going into any of this work or these different methods or anything, or when it comes to spirituality or whatever, it's like you know, just follow what resonates with you. And maybe you try something for a while and it doesn't necessarily fit, or that practice or that idea doesn't fit, swap it out, try something else, listen to you
Totally.
because you know best. I mean, I've fallen into places where I thought, this guru or this book was like the answer and all the truth and everything. And it was like, I mean, we are all like, Carl Jung says something about like the human brain in itself has like 3 billion cells. Like we are all so unique. There's no one like another, and we all have our unique gifts to bring to the planet that are God given. And it's like we all have to find our own path, and finding our own path means finding what spirituality means to you, finding what methods help you self-soothe, and then understanding that these may change throughout your life.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the big theme there with what you're saying is flexibility, and like you said, swap it out, like reshuffle the cards. You don't like the cards you're dealt, like shuffle them, pick new ones. And so that's really great. And just not getting like stuck in kind of that, well, like maybe I just need to do it better or harder or more. And it's like, well, no, if it's not working, just switch and just trust what feels right. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. Thanks for adding that. I think that does wrap it up nicely. Just flexibility. That's another tenet
Yeah,
to live thrivingly.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So Emily, if some of the listeners want to find you, where can they find you at?
Yeah. So the best way is Instagram. Move with Emily is my handle. There's periods in between move.with.emily. And if you type in my name, which do you want me to spell it out real quick? Or I guess it's probably on the script that you write
Yeah,
out.
I'll be
Okay.
including all of this in the description.
Amazing. Yeah. So Instagram is really the best way. I do have a ton of classes if you're looking to do anything from dance cardio on IGTV or even deep stretch and meditation. I've got flow as well. So please, if you do take any of those classes, just like, if you don't mind, just sharing it and just tagging me so I can keep, building my practice. And so, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and it looks like you have so Instagram's the best place to get connected with Emily, but she's also on Facebook, YouTube as well.
Yeah, there are a few classes on there. I'm not super active on YouTube. But yeah, definitely I think I have like 5 or so classes on there that are free and donation based. If you have the means, please, yeah. Venmo is great. It's just Emily-Baumann. If you do have any that you'd like to share, thank you.
Yeah, and so you said you can take different classes on your Instagram. Do you still do like chanting live on there, or
No, I was asked, yeah, I like that you asked that because I have considered doing it. I think because I am teaching so much in person, it's like I'm not as drawn to do that. But if I had more requests, I've had some requests about doing guided meditations on there. And so I definitely want to do that. I think I just kind of need like a few more people that are like, I need this, please do it, to know that people will show up and want to do it. So right now nothing's on the schedule, but yeah, reach out to me, send me a DM, and let me know if you want to do that, and like when would be a good time. So yeah, chanting or or meditation, or even like a short little class on IG Live, I'd be up for it. So yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for all that you are and showing up today. And I was thrilled with all the stories you shared, and just like, you really have had so much life experience and you're still so young. And like, I mean, it's going to be cool to watch your journey and continue to walk along this path with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jackson. I appreciate it, and stoked for you for starting the podcast. And that's awesome that, that moment that we met at the class, in Hawaii, and just that you were able to then like find your icon for the podcast and everything. You're doing great stuff, sharing people's stories, and just sharing that holistic lifestyle. So thank you.
Yeah. So quick last words, Emily, as we close this out.
I love this. I think this is my favorite quote. It's Dan Millman from his book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. It's a great book if you have not read it. But the quote is, "The key is to transform the energy of emotion into constructive action." So that quote really I think, just says it like it is. If you feel something, follow it, make a list, start taking action, and, it will serve you.